Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Thursday morning, progressives, and welcome to the January 9th, 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278, Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, Twitter Stream, and iHeartRadio. Email me at richard@WCPT820.com. That's where I can get your email and I can send you back stuff and say, hey, and how you doing? And what I also will say and appreciate is that you guys send me some good content, good information. And I'm going to continue to use that so that you guys know that I'm getting your emails, and hopefully when you request something from me, I'm getting it back to you in a reasonable amount of time. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There you can get Choose Views, short version, long version, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez in case you need a ride, The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other wonderful shows. Check out our heartlandsignal.com digital platform and share the good stuff that's there. We want you to do it. We want you to make sure you're in the mix. You're part of this solution and strength as much as we are here at the station that host shows. And that's proving itself by the numbers of things that I get from emails from you guys on social media, the text messages, and all the rest. We're part of the media solution and the messaging solution going forward. I'm a believer of that, and I'm a strong believer of that we're part of the message. We're part of the ongoing message to say things in real time as best we can. When someone says something or does something that isn't in line with where we need to be going as a country, need to speak up about it as quickly and as soon as you can. You don't always catch it immediately, but, not a day should go by where you have an opportunity, any of us, me included, and I catch myself when I may miss something to say to somebody. Circle back and say, hey, wait a minute, we got to talk about this. We are part of the message we are part of the mechanism for the message that we need to have out every single day. And so that's, again, why I talk about sharing, sharing the information that we have at heartlandsignal.com, sharing my information from the show that you can get by going to Choose Views and posting things that you like. Pulling those, doing the things that you can do to further the message. I think that myself and Joan and Patty that do our live shows here, and Edwin and the other folks on the weekend, we have content that you guys can use. I think that sometimes what happens, and the reason that this is in my notes this morning is I was thinking about some people that have contacted and called the last couple of days about, what do I do, Richard? And I've gotten emails that have asked, Richard, what do I do? And how are we going to be able to trust the media, the mainstream media particularly? And that takes the little bit of work. That takes the leaning in and asking yourself, does that make sense, what they said? Or I flat out don't like it. And so you are an instrument. We provide some content and some information and interviews and all that. Then you have the opportunity to pass that on, to pass that forward. And I'll put it in this vein. Our media landscape has changed over the years, over the decades, most definitely. If I go back to, let's say the 70s when I was in high school, and I think about, I saw something that was interesting that I read in an article in a magazine or in a newspaper. And, what would I do to get that information to someone? Well, I didn't text it to them or I didn't, stream it to them or anything like that because it wasn't the landscape that we were in at that time. What did I do? I may have copied the article or tore it out of the magazine or the newspaper, clipped it, whatever, and I gave it to someone, copied it and gave it to, someone. That's what we did then. That's the same. The difference now is somewhat the mechanism. In this case, or in today's landscape, you can clip, you can cut and paste and send. You can copy a link and send, And the list goes on because of the way in which we send information on social, through Twitter, X, through Threads, through Blue Sky. I'm there, by the way, all of those. Instagram, all the rest. And I'm missing some, obviously. But heartlandsignal.com, of course. Those are the tools that we have today, and in many ways can be more effective. Maybe not more effective, have more of an opportunity to have a broader instantaneous reach. You can send something to someone in a part of the world in a matter of seconds that could change their life or the lives of those around them. And that's powerful. That's really powerful. And you don't have to have, a newsletter. I mean, if you have one, great. You don't have to be on any of the, platforms where you're the, you're one that's created a podcast or whatever it might be. You can, but by all means, if you, want to be an influencer or have influence on the conversation, one of the things that you can do effectively is just look at the things that are important topical issues and, cut and paste or copy a link every day and send it out to everybody that you know in your email database and in your on your social media. That right there is the tantamount in today's environment and landscape to clipping articles from magazines and or newspapers back in the day, if you will, or back in my day of the 70s when I was in high school, and use that as your current tool. Now, listen, I know that many of you are going, yeah, Richard, I get that. Sometimes what we have to do is, as human beings, as folks, is we have to remind each other, ourselves, starting with ourselves, but certainly those around us that we care about, professionally, personally, business, all the rest. We have to remind each other to do things that are going to have impact and influence. We have to do that. I think that's part of the humankind. That's part of the caring about the people that are in your world, is we have to remind each other of some of the basic stuff. And it's okay to do that, because oftentimes, as the phrase goes, when you teach, you learn. So sometimes when you share, you are reminded of, oh my gosh, I need to reach out to this person about this or this person about that. And so the reason I wanted to kind of start off in this space today is because, part of our goal here is to share information, to provide you with information and content and ideas and thought processes, and then, hopefully inspire you, motivate you to do the same in your world. So no matter, and the beauty of where we are, guys, if there's a huge opportunity as we go forward in these next 4 years on a national level, and what we're going through in a state by state level and in a city by city level, is the ability to gather ourselves and take back the messaging. Okay, to take back the messaging and be able to be, I'm going to talk about some things today that are going to be that have me really kind of well, I don't know how to put this, but other than to just say it, that have me ready to throw something. Let's put it that way. Henry had to dance around that one, so I wouldn't say. But they have to do with 34XCF, and you all know what that new little moniker is and who it represents. But to that end, we have an opportunity to take back the messaging if we are so committed to doing it. If we are ready to sit down and say, what is it that I can do? What is it that I need to do? If I've been sitting on the sidelines, whether it be locally here with what's happening in the city of Chicago, Mayor Johnson, City Council, the state that you're in, wherever you might be in the country, this is that opportunity. And I was inspired to talk about it, to talk this opening of the show this way, because I saw some things, some news stories and some coverage with regard to the fires in California. And I thought, I want to come right out of the gate this morning and say, we all have the ability to connect our message to someone else, and use the tools that are in front of you to do that. Don't feel like if I send this out, if I say this, that it's not going to be received. Let people receive it how they're going to receive it. You be responsible for making sure you send out or you pass on or you share. Take that responsibility on. Don't worry about how somebody's going to receive it. You do the work of putting it out there and then let people deal with it accordingly. And that, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that as you do that with the intent of helping correct, redirect, take back the messaging that in some ways progressive liberal Democrats have lost by seeding and worrying, what are they going to think, what are they going to say? That's where we have the opportunity to change the dialogue by taking the dialogue back. Don't let someone dictate to you when you can dictate to them and to others. It takes some preparation. It takes some vision, if you will, about what you want to see. But I believe strongly that as we do that, we start to take back the messaging on a national level that's gotten so skewed and so gone wrong. I'll lean into this a little bit as it relates to the fires in California. But we're going to take a quick break right now. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we will be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views. Thanks for being with us this morning. I'm going to hit you with a few things that are happening in our world with our Choose Views news on this January 9th, 2025. California wildfires have turned deadly. President Biden will issue a federal emergency declaration in Southern California, where massive fires have claimed at least two lives, and I know that that's now up to 5 as of late last night. And it's scorched more than 23,000 acres, and that's growing. The Palisade Fire, which alone destroyed over 1,000 structures, remains 0% contained. Most destructive in Los Angeles history. Tens of thousands of Los Angeles County residents face potential evacuation, and they already are in that space. Just how quickly these things have changed. It's a tough situation, and many people are without power, and of course have lost their homes, and the list goes on. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in a moment. AT&T's RTO mandate has hit a snag. A return to office mandate began this week, and it appears to be off to a rocky start, according to Business Insider, which spoke to several employees at the telecom giant about their experiences. Workers returning to AT&T's Atlanta office reported overcrowded parking lots and a shortage of available desks. To address elevator congestion, the company posted signs with motivational quotes encouraging employees to use the stairs instead. AT&T said it's aware of the issues and plans to make adjustments. Most workers spoke to think that the RTO mandate may be an effort to cut the workforce. Oh, AT&T, listen, you're a big A company. You plan this stuff out, Henry. You got X. How many people were, prior to the pandemic, how many folks did we have here? We had 1,000. Okay, let's walk the floors and see how many desks do we have. Okay, we don't have enough desks. We need to make that happen before we say y'all got to come back. Another thing, elevator situation, you have tracking of how those elevators, sometimes it really is crazy how companies don't do some just basic assessment. Not rocket science. All right. Corporate hiring did slow in December. Corporate companies added fewer than expected jobs in December as the labor market softened through the end of the year, which is not unusual. That happens on a year-to-year basis. U.S. corporate payrolls rose by 122,000 in the month of December, the smallest amount since August, according to ADP. Most hires were by firms with at least 500 employees. The payroll processor also reported slowing wage growth, with those switching jobs seeing a 7.1% gain, and those who remained a 4.6% increase, the least since 2021. New jobless claims, meanwhile, ebbed to their lowest since February at 201,000, according to the Labor Department. Delta is switching up Lyft for Uber. Delta Airlines is ending its 8-year partnership with Lyft, swapping it instead for rival Uber. From the spring, Delta SkyMiles members will be able to earn loyalty points from their Uber rides as long as they link their accounts. Delta did not give a reason for the switch. However, American Express, which it also partners with, offers some of its cardholders Uber credits. Several airlines are growing their loyalty programs, which generate billions for the companies, generating billions for the companies, and Delta already counts Starbucks, Hertz, and Ticketmaster as their partners. The Fed sees a little bit more risk with inflation. Uncertainty about the new administration's policies will likely slow the pace of interest rate cuts this year, the Federal Reserve said. Minutes of the central bank's December meeting released yesterday focused on the potentially inflationary impact of immigration and trade policies currently under discussion by the incoming administration. Judging that upside risk to the inflation outlook has increased, members went ahead with the widely expected rate cut at their last meeting to be between 4.25 and 4.5%, but slashed their outlook for reductions this year to 2 from 4. All right. They're meeting again at the end of the month, so we'll see how that happens after this, the inauguration. And Goodyear is selling off one of its brands. And we add tires on our cars. Goodyear Tire and Rubber is selling its Dunlop brand to Japan's Sumitomo Rubber Industries for $701 million. The deal, which includes Dunlop's trademarks in Europe, North America, and Oceania, follows a strategic review. It expected to close its mid-2025 pending regulatory approval. Goodyear plans to use the proceeds to reduce debt and fund other initiatives. All right, so they're also, in making these changes, getting rid of some of the issues that they had with the deal in the first place. But the reason I thought this was important is that, let's hope that with that change that we don't see loss in jobs for people that are part of the company. Okay, guys. Thanks for that little bit of background music, Henry, and our Choose Views news this morning. So I will dive into something that we talked about a little bit yesterday, because I don't know if anybody was listening or not, but apparently Merrick Garland has decided to release Jack Smith's January 6th report on Trump. Now, I know that the president and his whole staff were listening to this show, and they heard me when I said, President Biden, why don't you go ahead and release the documents? And then he probably reached out to Merrick and said, hey, dude, Richard Chu in Chicago on WCPT's AM 820 Choose Views said, let's go ahead and release this stuff. So they did, which is great. I'm glad that they were listening, and I'm very proud of our president for being an open-minded person, not a dictator, and listens to his constituency. So there. We'll see what it looks like in terms of what they actually do release, but it's my understanding that, and this is what the DOJ wrote, the special counsel has already transmitted his final report to the Attorney General as permitted by the district court's recent order. The final report comprises 2 volumes. Volume 1 relates to the special counsel's investigation and prosecution of President Trump relating to the 2020 presidential election, known as the election case. Volume 2 relates to the special counsel's investigation and prosecution of defendants Waltine Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, as well as President Trump relating to mishandling of classified documents, known as the classified documents case. So it's the election case and the classified documents case. The Attorney General intends to release Volume 1 to Congress and the public consistent with the case number 28 CFR 600.9, and in furtherance of the public interest in informing a co-equal branch and the public regarding this significant matter. But to avoid any prejudice to defendants Nauta and De Oliveira, the AG has determined, at the recommendation of the special counsel, that he will not publicly release Volume 2 so long as the defendants' criminal proceedings remain pending. And that makes sense because they don't want to taint the case. So that's good jurisprudence and good management of information in this case. But for me, selfish little old me, I'm excited that they heard me. Y'all know I'm joking. Okay, they didn't. I doubt that they heard me, but if they did, that's even better. Release it. This is something that listen, you heard how I laid this out yesterday, and I'm still standing on that business. The president's responsibility is to protect us from enemies, foreign and domestic. And what Trump did, and I'm going to use his name, what Trump did then was an attack on the country. And the country needs to know about it. I've heard this argument from people, politicians, business people, everyday, citizens that have said, well, it's going to harm the country if he puts that, if they do this, if they put that information out, if they process, it's going to harm the country. Okay. A lot of times that sort of talk is saying that it's going to harm, when it says harm the country, that comes from a place where people think that if we talk about it, if we put it out there, if we put some sunlight, some daylight on it, that there's going to be all these people that are going to be up in revolt, and that the country's going to be harmed by it, means that there's people who aren't going to like that it's put out there that are going to start to lose their minds. Okay, but that's one part of the conversation and one part of the argument. The other part of it is there are people who are going to be equally upset if it doesn't come out. The Mueller report, these reports. So if one half of the country would be upset for it coming out, the other half of the country is going to be upset that it didn't come out. But at the end of the day, the litmus test has to be not necessarily what's good for the country, or not exclusively what's good for the country or a part of the country, yay or nay, but what's right based on what the officials who have the power to do something about it swore to do. Okay? Y'all understand that? It's not if the right's going to be upset or the left's going to be upset or happy. It's that these officials on a state level, on a regional level, on a local level, on a federal level, swore an oath to do a certain thing or not do a certain thing. They didn't swear an oath or weren't sworn to an oath that said, nah, we ain't going to send it out because it might hurt some people's feelings. I mean, Henry, they didn't sit down and say, okay, well, right here it says, don't send this information out. Don't do the thing that is designed to protect the American people. They didn't sign that. It said the other, which is to protect the American people. So it's not about who's going to like it or dislike it or love it or whatever. It's about what they signed up for. Okay? It's about what they signed up for and said they would do. And protecting the Constitution does not mean keeping information private and holding it back. And at its core, that's the reason why Donald Trump should be sentenced by the courts in New York. Because those judges swore an oath that upon a conviction, there comes a sentencing. Unless the conviction is what? Overturned. So to delay sentencing Donald Trump is a breach of what they swore to do. No matter what the appeals courts say, he was convicted. And unless that conviction is overturned, he must be sentenced. That's how the rules work. And that is why when I look at the folks that are in the legal position to drop the hammer on Donald Trump, the disappointment is there because they know that sentencing him for these 34 felonies is what their job is. And this is why the Supreme Court should not take this case at its core, because unless their goal is to overturn it, which they wouldn't do, it has to be overturned in the federal court that it was litigated in. The Supreme Court actually doesn't have purview when it comes to the sentencing. All they're doing is blocking this decision to actually sentence him. And that's different. So, kudos to President Biden for tuning in yesterday and saying, yeah, we gotta run with what Richard Chu said and release the documents, Henry. Kudos to the Justice Department for saying, yeah, we need to listen to what our old boy Chu says. Y'all know I'm playing. But they're doing what they're supposed to do. Put that out there. Let it be known. The country deserves to know. All of the country, not just the folks on the left that want it to be out there, but the folks on the right that have been allowed themselves to be hoodwinked and brainwashed willfully, frankly. I was asked that question. Why? It's because they want it that way. They want to believe in garbage. It allows somebody else to speak their truth when they don't have the guts to speak it themselves. To say, yeah, I'm a racist, I'm a sexist, I'm a misogynist. No, I'll let somebody else do it and I'll fall in line. Everybody needs to see it and hear it. So kudos. Yeah, guys. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We have a guest today in studio that I'm looking forward to having with us, Kenneth Smith, who's running for mayor of North Chicago. He'll be with us from 7:30 to 8 this morning. But right now, we're going to take a quick break. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. Thanks for being with us. 773-763-9278. So, Henry and I were having some sarcasm during the break about things that are happening in terms of the West Coast and specifically Los Angeles County. It's hard. I'll get this out of the way first, and then I'll come to the content. It's heartbreaking for me, as it would be for anybody. My history with California, specifically Southern California, is I went to school there. I have friends there. I have family there, colleagues, and they're being directly impacted by it. An indirect friend of mine from my tennis days lost his home in Pacific Palisades. I found that out from another good buddy of mine that's a former Marine. And I've reached out to people that I know out there that have had to evacuate, businesses that I know. So it's personal. It's personal to me. Not that any disaster, weather-related disaster, climate-related disaster isn't personal to all of us, because we know somebody. Remember when things were going on in Florida? What did I say? If you got some people down there, yeah, it's Florida, but people are people. You got somebody down there, check in on them. Same thing is applying here. And so for me, it's personal because of the folks that I know out there. And we even have folks that are callers that call in from California and the West Coast. So I'm sending as much positivity to those who I've been in communication with about staying safe and get to where you need to get to, and just know that we're thinking about you. And that same thing holds true for those who are about to get snow or have got that they don't get, in parts of the country, and have had terrible weather that they don't get. My sister lives in the D.C. metropolitan area, and they got 11 inches of snow. Okay. The axis has tilted, y'all. Okay, so I'm gonna dive into this because it's important to talk about. I watched some of the coverage last night with regard to the fires, and it's horrible. It's just flat out horrible, and We've seen it. Those of you who've been following it in one way or the other know how awful it is. And in some ways, it's more awful than people even know about. But these are the couple of things I want to land on. When it comes to something like this, Henry said it best during the break. He said, this is awful, but thank God that at this point, President Biden is president, and rather than Donald Trump. But what we did see yesterday in one of the little news clips of Trump is that he went after Governor Gavin Newsom. And the mainstream media is picking up on that. This is the part that I fight hard not to curse in terms of words that I can't say in the air. But this is where the mainstream media is so out of alignment with reality. They pick up on that Donald Trump blames Gavin Newsom and Los Angeles officials, rather than picking up on President Biden stood strong to what Henry said during the break to direct us to put us in a place in a direction to help the folks that are suffering in Southern California right now. The mainstream media is so messed up that that's what they focus on, rather than on the fact that there are people who are in pain right now. And like Governor Newsom said, and he caught himself, you could see he wanted to let loose that rather than Donald Trump, president-elect, saying he can't do anything to help, so then shut the blank up. But he can't do that because he needs to blame people for things that go wrong or when something happens, and take credit when something that he had nothing to do with happens right. He literally said these words, that this is Joe Biden and Gavin Newsom's fault. Those of you who are MAGA or somewhere in the middle, or don't like progressive conversation and you troll stations and calls throughout the country, this is on you all to have a person like that, soon to be the president of the United States, blaming a natural disaster on the President Biden, his administration, Governor Newsom, his administration, Mayor Bass of Los Angeles. First of all, does he not understand the patchwork of communities in this area in Los Angeles County, where you've got Pacific Palisades, which has its own leadership. You've got West Hollywood. You've got these different neighborhoods that have their leadership. That, Beverly Hills has a mayor, by the way, Donald Trump. You dumb you know what. Los Angeles County is part of the process to help galvanize and pull all these communities together. And the governor is the top of the food chain. But how stupid of you and all of your minion that went on CNN, from Scott Jennings to the representative from, I think he's from Idaho, and I can't think of his name, that went on to say that they blamed Governor Newsom for this tragedy by saying that they didn't pass the bills and they're holding back water and fire hydrants. First of all, these two knuckleheads are too stupid to understand the topography there, to understand how you could run out of water or have a pause just because of the topography. One. Secondly, these dumb A's, being partisan, don't understand that in Los Angeles, the city council put so much pressure on Mayor Karen Bass that she was forced to reduce certain parts of the budget when it comes to this type of protection for the community. Republicans forced the hand in that space. But when you have a natural disaster, here's the thing that Republicans refuse to talk about. In fact, they vote against it because most of them are climate deniers. They don't want to deal with the fact that climate change is a real thing. They deny it. They deny it. They deny it. Meanwhile, big oil companies just keep filling the Republicans' pockets, and some Democrats, just to be true, honest and, forthright in this conversation. But they fail, Republicans en masse, on a state level. We got Republicans in the state of Illinois that fight the governor and fight the mayor and fight the county officials on climate. I want to talk to the mayor about that tomorrow. I'm not going to take the low-hanging fruit with the mayor. There's more issues that we need to talk about other than, this whole thing about hemp and whatever else. But anyhow, there are Republicans here in the state of Illinois, a blue state, that we don't have fire as an issue. We don't have some of the other issues that they have in other states, but we have our own, that fight climate change legislation. Republicans do that all over the country, and certainly on a federal level. They'd rather get money from the big oil companies than to accept and acknowledge that we have a climate issue. The axis has tilted. The Earth's axis has tilted. Why in the hell does Chicago, in the last decade, we've gotten less snow in the last decade than we've gotten proportionately in the last 40 years during our prime winter month, cold month seasons, going to Halloween and to St. Patrick's Day? Why is that? That's climate change, knuckleheads. Why is it that Virginia proportionately has gotten more snowfall, Maryland, DC, than we've gotten here in the upper Midwest? Why is it that Texas has gotten more snow and not sleet, but ice storms, and Oklahoma? Why is it that Seattle, the Pacific Northwest, has had more hot summers and springs than ever before? Because of climate change and the deniers that keep saying it's not real. And to Donald Trump and his minion, who are too obstinate and stupid at the same time to realize that the Southern Basin in Los Angeles and Los Angeles County has gotten barely 5 inches of rain in the last year. But that's so Henry made the comment, but the Democrats control the weather machines. So why would you light your own house on fire? I don't mean that in a derogatory way to folks in Southern California. I'm not being a jerk in saying that. If you could fix that, why wouldn't you fix it? And the thing that makes this so painful, and I'm sure you hear it in my voice, is on a federal level, this is the kind of carnage and garbage that half the country voted for. This is what happened, y'all. And to continue to deny climate change. I mean, hell, Henry, part of the way in which these wildfires are contained is not just what happens on the ground with the firefighters. Let me just check a box here for a second. To all the white men out there that are politically stupid, that are on the right, that may listen to this show and others, press pause when it comes to the fact that white men didn't. If there were more white men had been hired by the Los Angeles County Fire Department, that this would have been resolved. That's what these knuckleheads on CNN were talking about last night. Press pause on that, please. DEI is not the reason that the Southern Basin is burning. And how stupid, this is what cracks me up. The white men that are saying this are supposed to be smart and get us to think that we're going to follow your belief system, but you're too damn stupid to realize that if there were more white men that were working, that the DEI wouldn't have had its influence. How absolutely racist, sexist, and stupid is it to say something like that? So my counter to that is, okay. So if there were more white dudes that were on the LA County Fire Department to fix this, so if that's the case, if that's what the solution is, and you're saying that DEI is a problem, then I get to say that every other problem that we have where white men are in charge, all of that garbage is your fault. That's what I get to say. Where you are in the majority of any other venue, it's on you that all that other stuff is messed up, whatever it is in the country. I knew I would be a little passionate this morning, but I didn't know if it would be filled with tears out of the sadness for the loss there, or if it would be the fact that we have a climate issue globally, and the United States of America should be leading without any restraint in that resolution, whether it be the fires in Southern California or it be snow in parts of the country that don't get it or get it often or to the level that we get it, or the hurricanes and the tornadoes that we have. I mean, if Donald Trump wants to pretend, listen, rather than, okay, I don't want to miss this point. When I was saying earlier that the fire containment is not just on the ground, and we know that whomever's on the ground, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever your community is, your culture is, they're fighting to save people's lives and property. Okay. But the other part of this, which is why these knuckleheads don't understand and are denying the impact of the climate and the weather, is that the winds have been so damn high, Henry, that part of the containment and retardation of fires like this comes from the air and the ability for planes and helicopters to drop retardant to prevent the fire from spreading. That's part of the containment. But these guys are too damn stupid or arrogant and belligerent to know that. Okay? If the winds are too high for a plane or a helicopter to take off to drop that retardant, then the fire's going to spread and embers are going to continue to blow 2 miles. Because the winds are so high, they can't get these guys and gals, white guys and black guys that fly helicopters and planes, are probably crying because they can't get up. They want to get up. They want to help. They want to get in their aircraft and do the thing that they swore to do. But because of the weather and because of the winds, they can't do it. Irrespective of their culture. So, Republicans, before you start to go down the road of blaming people, blaming Democrats, talking about DEI, understand science. And this is largely due to the fact that you all are deniers of science and deniers of climate change and climate issues. I'm going to take a break. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. I won't apologize, but I'll apologize for my passion on that because it's not just because it's personal to me and personal to so many, but it's also about how our country, we have to stop electing people that don't get that don't understand that. And that's the failing of us as a society, to not pay attention and recognize. I got a great text this morning, Henry, that basically want proof of climate change? Go ahead and find me a snowmobile dealership. There aren't anymore because there isn't any snow anymore. When we were kids, there were at least 2 snowmobile dealerships in every suburb. This is a great text. And to that end, we could build a narrative off of that. You know, the snow is landing in different areas. It's raining more in different areas than it did 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. All the other weather things that are happening differently to different parts of the country. So you all know how I feel about what's happening in Southern California. And thoughts and prayers don't fix it. Action does. going forward, we have to make sure we elect the people that are going to get the things done to make sure that we protect our communities across the country. So if it's the fires in California, the heat in the Pacific Northwest, the ice storms through the Central Plains, snow in Texas, power outages, all the things that we've seen, the water, the hurricanes and tornadoes on the East Coast, that's just not the norm. And America, stop lying to yourself. Listen, this dude, 34 times ex-CF, pulled us from Paris Accords. What's that about, Republicans? That's about protecting this thing that, if you're a believer in God, that God gave us. But the same people on the right, the Republican right, the Christian nationalists, want to say, Revelations is coming. Well, we were given dominion over the things that we so-called believe in spiritually. And y'all, we're messing up. We're messing up in a big way. And for those who have put things on social media, and you know who you are, that's saying that Southern California, Los Angeles is getting what they deserve because of all the ills of that community, of that part of the country, you've lost your damn mind. Getting what they deserve from whom? So thank you for the text. I someone said, don't apologize for your passion. Well, I get what you're saying, and thank you for that. Maybe what Donald Trump should spend his time on, rather than talking about Greenland, Canada, and Panama, maybe what you should focus on is Florida's issues when it comes to some of the weather impacts down there and the coastal degradation that's taking place. Maybe you should focus on that. I don't know. I'm not going to say something that some of you probably are anticipating that I might want to say about Mar-a-Lago and weather and its oceanic view. I'm not going to say it, but you all are smart enough to know what might be going through my brain right now. And I'm not going to say that because that would be wrong of me. But maybe he should focus and put his energies toward leave Greenland alone. They ain't hurting anybody. Leave the Panama Canal alone. Leave Canada alone. They're not hurting anybody. Maybe focus on your state's coastal issues. How about that, Donald? Got a clip I want to play for you guys as we get to the top of the hour from a Canadian official that had something to say about the Donald's comments about Canada.
So no, sorry. And I really also take offense, sorry, Mr. Trump, took offense to your idea that Pierre Poilievre wasn't good enough to lead the Conservatives. Wayne Gretzky, he's great. He is the great one. He skates to where the puck is going. It's not going to MAGA. The puck is on a Canadian ice rink. And by the way, Mr. Trump, please, before making public pronouncements that Wayne Gretzky should run for prime minister, give yourself or get yourself a briefing on the nature of parliamentary democracy, a Westminster parliamentary system, and a constitutional monarchy where no one runs for prime minister. We have elections for members of parliament. We don't get to pick and choose among our billionaire friends for who gets a seat at the cabinet table. If they're not an elected member of parliament, well, Canadian system is different from that of the United States of America. I suggest that Mr. Trump find one of his grandchildren's school books and look at the year 1776, which may explain a few things to him about why our systems of government are different. I don't want to belittle Mr. Trump, but on the other hand, hey, Donald, have we got a deal for you? You think we want to be the 51st state? Nah, but maybe California would like to be the 11th province. How about it? California, Oregon, Washington, You've got geography in common with us. And not only that, we've already got a carbon trading system between California and Quebec. We've got some strong alliances on our west coast from British Columbia. There's been a lot of academic papers on the idea of Cascadia. So California, Governor Newsom, and Washington State, Jay Inslee, and newly elected Governor of Oregon, Tina Kotek. How about it? Want to put a referendum to your citizens? Because this is what you deal. Have we got a deal for you? This is what you get. Free health care. Universal free health care. No more one-year-olds who suddenly fall off the Medicaid list and their parents are in the news because they're trying to do a GoFundMe so they can get their daughter to a doctor. Universal free health care. And guess what? Those gun laws that your Congress is too afraid to pass because of the national gun lobby, we already got our strict gun laws. That's why we have the safest streets around the world. Or at least in the United States, by the way, the most recent stats, 5.9 out of every 100,000 people is killed in a fatal gun incident versus 0.88 per 100,000 in Canada. That's because we have strict gun laws. California citizens, Oregon, Washington, safer streets. Here we already have good gun laws, and women have a right to an abortion under our universal health care system. But, we don't have to stop there. Donald, think about it. You could get rid of all these states that always vote Democrat. You know what else will take Bernie Sanders off your hands? Proud new Canadian citizen of the great province of Vermont. Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. We'd love to see you. Our maritime provinces already have deep, deep links and ties. Well, enough kidding around. But honestly, President Trump, get used to it. Canada is a sovereign nation full of, guess what, proud Canadians. We're not jingoistic, don't boast a lot. That's one of the things we kind of have in common with Jimmy Carter. We're not a big nation for braggarts and bullies. We actually like to think we're of service in the world. We could do better. We can always do better. But we love our country, and it's a country. It's a nation, and we do not aspire to be a 51st state. So let's not hear that anymore. If it was a joke, it was never funny, and it ends now. Thanks.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. All right, what's happening over at heartlandsignal.com? We've got some great clips there on Heartland Signal X, and obviously we're throwing the necessary shade on Republicans for some of the stupid things that they say and do. And we've got a great piece there from Governor Tony Evers up in Wisconsin, and some clips from Governor Tim Walz talking about Sarah Huckabee and her $19,000 lectern, along with some of the other crazy things that are happening with Republicans and the things that they're doing. Even, President-elect Donald referring to the Gulf of Mexico as Gulf of America. What an arrogant POS for that. But you can find those over at heartlandsignal.com, and you can share them with folks who might need to be plugged in today. From 2 to 5, Joan Esposito will be taking your calls and talking to Russell Berman of The Atlantic and media critics Mark Jacob and Jennifer Schulzing. Friday on the show, Joan will talk with Illinois Congresswoman Nikki Budinsky, live, local, and progressive. Weekdays, 2 to 5 p.m., Joan Esposito here on WCPT, AM 820, driving it home with Patty Vasquez. We'll be taking your calls. And today on the show, she'll welcome Wisconsin Circuit Court Judge Susan Crawford to the show. Crawford is a candidate for the Wisconsin Supreme Court race that will determine control of the court on April 1st. Driving it home with Patty Vasquez, weeknights 5 to 7. And, of course, just a reminder that Choose Views has 2 new podcasts, Choose Views full episodes and Choose Views featured interviews. You can subscribe to one or both. Podcast is available. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Amazon, and TuneIn. Just search for Choose Views with Richard Chu, or get the links by visiting heartlandsignal.com/choose-views. Guys, as always, thanks for tuning in and being with us. So I want to go back to what I was talking about before we went to the break. And kudos. There's a couple people that have asked about the clip of the Canadian government official. Just email me at richard@wcpt820.com and I'll send you the clip if you'd like to have it for your own sharing with people. So email me, I'll get it to you, and then you can take it from there. But Henry, I did have someone that said to me that sent this clip. In all fairness, they said that we don't really care about fires in California or Donald Trump for that matter. Let it go. Move on to local problems in Chicago and the problems in Illinois. Okay, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Okay, no disrespect to the text that was sent to me, but we should walk and chew gum at the same time because the problems are universal. Climate change is universal. Nobody, listen, we just heard on the AP report, and I talked about it before. I'm not just, I said it was personal to me with this area of Southern California because of my history and connection there to this day. But I also spoke about what's happening down in Florida and what's happening in Texas and what's happening in the South and the Plains right now. That's a climate change issue. That is not a Chicago only or Illinois only issue. Newsflash. That is a country and global issue, y'all. And we have to start right now taking it seriously. We have to just draw a line in the sand and say we have to start leaning into fixing this now. You know, the emission of CO2 into the environment is literally killing us. Do y'all realize that it's not just the fire itself in Southern California that's destroying? There are going to be people that are going to have respiratory issues as a result of all of this smoke and all of the things that have burned, and how that's going to impact the environment. And by the way, for those who are in areas where you think you're protected, nobody is. And I'm not saying this to be negative or be, Debbie Downer. This is a global issue, which means that if it's happening someplace else, we have to be mindful of it here where we are. And we have to get out of our bubble. We got issues in Chicago. I've talked about that before. And I'm going to push Mayor Johnson tomorrow. I'm not going to take the low-hanging fruit. I'm going to talk about the things that I think are as important, if not more, than some of the issues that the battle, if you want to call it, based on the 30-second news clips about he and Governor Pritzker, who I support both of them. I can support both of them and be critical of them at the same damn time. So we got issues in Illinois. We got issues in Chicago. But that doesn't mean we can't thrive and go forward. We have climate issues here, too. They're just different ones. We do. So stop fooling yourselves, people. Stop fooling yourself. Stop being selfish and saying, oh, let's talk about what's happening here in Illinois and Chicago. No, we're going to talk about all of it. We're going to talk about the things that are happening to people in Pennsylvania when it comes to our climate, as well as the folks in Florida. And if you're from Chicago, I know for a fact that you know somebody that spends time in Florida because of the weather, because of the warmer weather. So they're impacted by weather and climate changes. So get off this horse about we only talk about it here locally in Chicago or the state of Illinois. We can fix all of it if we're strong enough and if we are visionary enough. We can fix all of it, or certainly change, move it in a direction to change. I will not tolerate we only going to talk about what's here in Chicago and Illinois. No, we're going to talk about all of it. That's what progressive liberal Democrats are supposed to do. We have to fight back against the Republicans who want to keep us stuck on stupid. And when it comes to climate change, they have been at the front of the line to that effort. And I don't care what anybody says. The evidence backs that up. That's not my opinion. That's not anecdotal. Republicans have been at the front of the line when it comes to blocking legislation on a state level, on a federal level, when it comes to climate change. That is a fact. Okay? So, just so you guys know. And we have to. I just was sent a text that says we need to stop this garbage of me. We need to get back to acting in a collective way of thinking. That is absolutely correct. A collective way of thinking. Come on, progressives. Let's step up in this moment. excuse me, the change that's going to take place with the administration on a federal level. We know that what we saw from Trump yesterday is what is going to be par for the course. And now is not the time to wither to this craziness that's coming our way. All right, you guys, thank you for those who've sent texts to me that said, don't apologize for my passion. I appreciate that, because my passion is about me caring and wanting us to do something about it, wanting us to have solutions. Tomorrow we will have Mayor Johnson on with us, and I'm going to ask him some of the questions that I think are important, but I also want to talk about where we go, where we have to go with our city. So don't worry. We're going to have a good conversation. And, I want to make sure that we get the mayor to talk about some of the things that I know are on his mind, are on his agenda that he ran on, that he's got to step forward on. So we will cover those things tomorrow. Don't you worry. All right. On a federal level, it's nice to see that some Democratic doctors have stepped up and said that RFK's plans, they condemned his plans in terms of some of the health issues that he's talked about. And I'm tired of liberals saying things like, yeah, we all want to have, we want to eat healthier food. Well, everybody knows that. Come on, Dems. We know that. It's not that doesn't take a rocket science to know we all want to have a healthier way of eating and better meals and better. We get all that. Maybe we start with big companies spraying less pesticides on foods. How about that? That's not a partisan issue. So kudos to some of the Democratic lawmakers and doctors. Democratic doctors in the House condemned the RFK plan, and that's good on them to step forward. That's the kind of things. That's what I talk about, and what I mean when I talk about standing in the void and stepping into the messaging about what we have to do as progressive liberal Democrats. It's taking that kind of leadership. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views. We'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Shout out to Nancy. So many, she says, since this text, so many of us have family and friends in California, and so we need to be concerned about the disaster in California. We need to be informed and support those who are in need, no matter where in the world people are in pain. Thank you, Nancy, for those comments. That is exactly right. I couldn't have said it any better myself, Henry. And that's the point I'm making about the conversation around climate issues and climate change. It's real. It's happening right here in Chicago. So it's not an issue that's just something that's out there some other place. We're dealing with it here. And as I look at it, Henry, this is the thing that this is kind of how my brain works. I think I've really gotten this from my wife's sometimes my wife's observations about a dotted line. It's a phrase she uses. It's a dotted line to something else. Well, infrastructure is a tool for solutions when it comes to how we're impacted by the result of a climate disaster. So what's happening in Los Angeles right now, or what's about to happen down in the central and southern states, when we dedicate resources to infrastructure, when disasters happen, we are better equipped to recover from them. When we have infrastructure in place and bills and legislation, that's when we're better equipped to handle the disasters that come to humanity. So Nancy's right on point where we have to support those who are in need no matter where they are in the world, if they're in pain or having an issue like this. So give you an example about this and bringing this down to a local level. We've got infrastructure issues here in Chicago and in the state of Illinois, but certainly here in Chicago, in the northern part of the state, because it's more populated. That's just, you use it, it's going to get deterioration is going to happen. That's what I'm trying to say. We use our roads, we use our bridges, and on and on and on and on and on. It's going to deteriorate. So our state, our city, all of our officials need to do a better job to make sure that we allocate more money in the state and partner with the federal government to make sure that our communities have the resources to better to improve our infrastructure, our bridges, our roads, and all the rest, the quality of our water and the quality of our air. That is not a just certain parts of the country issue. That's right here in Chicago. We're about to have on Kenneth Smith, who is candidate for mayor of North Chicago. I'm sure he's got some concerns about infrastructure as it relates to how our climate actually has an impact on our infrastructure. I mean, Henry, if water sits if there's a pothole, and we got water that sits in that pothole for an extended period of time, is the pothole going to get larger or smaller? It's probably going to get larger, right? And if water is not draining effectively because our infrastructure, our roads, our bridge, all the rest are not designed or repaired to affect water's disbursement, then we're going to have pothole issues all over. That's an infrastructure issue that, for lack of better words, catches the hell of our environment. So, when I said this, use a phrase earlier about the dotted line of our infrastructure is tied to the dotted line of our climate. And yeah, it's a political issue, but we don't have to make it. It's something that can be solved with good politicians, but we don't need to make it a political issue. It needs to be a human issue. And I'm committed to that. So I appreciate your comment, Nancy, in that space. All right, Henry, let's grab a quick call. Let's go to Eddie, I believe, here in Chicago. Good morning, Eddie, and welcome to Choose Views.
Hey, it's me again. Remember last time we were talking about Naperville?
Oh, hey. What's going on, man?
Hey, so just like you, I'm absolutely disgusted by how some of these people are treating the situation in L.A., and I think it really does come down to a people issue, because Mango Mussolini could come up tomorrow and say, back in 92, a Palisades bouncer, he dumped me out the club, and all his fan base would be like, oh, yeah, you know what, screw the Palisades. And it's like, dude, think about it. What was it, last summer we had that big flood down south, and it was, I believe, a red state. And who were the biggest supporters just giving money, donating towards the cause? The Democrats, the progressives.
Yep. And
now we deal with something where, people that are voting blue, they're affected by something, and immediately these guys are, like, forgetting everything that we've try to strive together towards, and they're just like, oh, no, because you voted this, that's what you get. It's like, what are you people doing?
Listen, man, I appreciate you breaking it down like that, because it doesn't matter. Like Nancy, who texted me, said, it doesn't matter. When folks are in pain or in a tragic situation, we all have to step up to make sure that those folks, because here's the thing, Eddie, you know this, we're probably no more than 2 or 3 what's the phrase, degrees of separation from somebody who's impacted by what's happening with our climate. It's a fact. I mean, it doesn't take rocket science mind.
Like a weird, you're right, because I don't know what it is, like an emotional detachment to reality or something that's going on with these people right now. But I mean, in a retrospective, I could positively say, I'm part of the local music community out here in Chicago. I throw a lot of events in the underground for punk bands, rock bands. And, there is a political thing going on there, too, where it's like you got your bands that are progressive, democratic, liberals, and they pretty much are the majority here in the city. And then you get the conservative Republican bands from, Braidwood. And, a lot of them tend to fight with each other about these kind of issues. And really, that's how you don't get booked in the city, when you prove to everybody around you that you're self-centered. And you would think that they would take that and kind of like text to self, text to world. What the hell am I doing that means here, and here? And why is it affecting me negatively? And I think that might be the key solution here is self-awareness. A lot of these people are not self-aware of how self-centered they can be, and it's like, look at 9/11. We all came together. I mean, I was a child, outside playing, and my mom yanked me inside because she thought a plane was going to hit Chicago. But, like, I was just a child. But my mom was like, oh, yeah, we're all going to get through this together. And I'm like, what are we getting through? And, you know, then I realized what 9/11 was. But, you know, we don't have that kind of a unity anymore. What does it take to make all of the United States come together again, if not more, or something immensely tragic? I don't know, how the United States, disappears in a black hole.
Oh, man. Listen, Eddie, first of all, thanks as always for your contributions, and we appreciate you giving us a call. And listen, man, I hear what you're saying about us coming together, and that's part of one of the reasons that I am so thankful to be able to do this show. Is that's what I want to see for us. What the singular answer is, I don't know what that is, but I know collectively, it's folks like you and others who talk about it and are not afraid to talk about it, so that we keep leaning in and coming up with solutions that we can all benefit from. So, thank you so much for your call this morning.
Problem. I mean, it's true. We need a collective consciousness in times like these. Otherwise, you know, it's just going to turn into one of those things where we vote one guy, does something good for 4 years, vote another guy, and he might just spend his 4 years undoing all that.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Eddie, for calling. Have a good day and be safe out there. All right. Yeah, I mean, he asked the question, and I humbly say I don't have a singular answer. What I will say is that, to his point, the collective is important. The ability for us to say, when are we going to stop this? I mean, and listen, I get it. There's been a movement, and there is a strong part of this country that wants to see people in pain. I based on conversations that I've had for years now, if not going back a few decades, there is reality to this Christian national movement. Now, Christians don't get upset with me. Folks of other faith don't get upset with me. But this is where I believe, based on the things that I've seen and heard and conversations that I've been a part of, where there's this sort of belief that the pain that the people feel is a directive from God, and that people should feel it, and that it's what God wants. And it's designed to bring people to God, so that when people are in pain, then they turn to God. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm not making this up. Something I created in Richard Chu's laboratory of thoughts. And Christian nationalism has made its way to our Supreme Court. It's part of where our legislators are on that level. And so that's one of the problems that we have right now, that I feel a lot of people don't want to, they don't want to lean into. And that is how much the manipulation of Christianity has negatively impacted the country. How much Christian nationalism is part of the legislative agenda of the right. Not passing certain things in terms of bills that are going to improve the country, state by state, city by city. So, I don't know if that's the answer, but it's certainly something that I've leaned into to put some thought to. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. 773-763-9278. When we come back, we will have candidate for North Chicago Mayor Kenneth Smith. This is Choose Views. We'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. As the phrase goes, all politics are local, and things start on a local level when it comes to people that we elect and that we support and want to see them move things forward in a positive way. And this morning, we have the opportunity to have candidate Kenneth Smith, who's running for mayor of the city of North Chicago, with us here in studio. So that's always kind of fun to have a guest in studio. A lot of our guests call in, but welcome to the show. Welcome to WCPT and Choose Views.
Thank you. And when I had the option to just be on the phone or to come in, I said, I have to come in.
Well, welcome to the show, and I'm glad you're able to make it in for this last half hour of the show. So you're running for mayor of North Chicago. A lot of people don't know there is a North Chicago, but we do. Yes. And so I'll just start off with the most obvious question. What is it that drove you to say, I'm going to get in this race? And what is it that you feel is the biggest reason for you to be in this race?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be on your program. But the answer to that question is, if you tell you a little bit about myself, I've been brought up in the church. So in the church as a minister also, I serve the people. And then when I decided to run for alderman, that's serving the people at a different level.
Yep.
Then I decided to run for mayor, which again is serving the people at a different level. So that's my whole motivation, is to serve the people.
Got it. So when you started down this path, what were some of the, I would say, not objections, but obstacles that you have run into, or challenges that you're seeing in running for this position?
I guess I would say one of the things is having the pulse of the people. If you take your two fingers and put it on your wrist, you feel your pulse.
Yep.
That's one thing I can say. I have the pulse of the people. And by serving the people, being amongst the people, you have a better idea of what the people want. And what I always do, I ask the people, what are some of the things that you want to see done in our city? That's how I have the pulse of the people. And I will coin my phrase of saying that I'm the people's mayor, because I'm about doing the things that are best for the people.
So what's the population in North Chicago?
30,000.
30,000. And from a voter standpoint, in terms of having a pulse of the people, what has historically been the percentage of folks registered and that do vote?
Ooh, I really don't want to answer that question, but
well, no, it's
voting register. It's low.
Okay,
we have approximately 8,000 registered voters. I think the last turnout was about 600.
Wow.
Voters. And so that's why I say it's sad to say, but I am definitely working on getting those numbers up as one of my goals, to break a record of voter turnout at this next election.
Okay, so you get elected, but whatever the numbers are, your term, you're going to be doing all the things that you do as an elected official, and then you're going to get to this next term where you're going to run again. Between elected this time and the next cycle, what are you planning on doing to get voter registration and involvement up as a representative of the city of North Chicago?
Glad you asked that question. I do have an answer.
Okay.
I think going back to when I first got involved in politics, per se, was in high school, and I ran for being the president of our class. So taking that and going to the next level, which is one of my phrases that I use in my political campaign, everything next level. We're forgetting about those 18-year-old, 19-year-olds, getting them involved in politics. I go to the National League of Cities, and I seen a group, and they had like 30 kids from their city. And to me, that's a key that our cities are not doing, getting the young people involved. Another thing, when I was growing up, they had a get to meet the mayor, where the kids could run to be the mayor for the day,
right,
get involved with the operations of the city. And I think that's something that I would definitely do to get the kids excited about being involved in the politics and the operations of the city.
So younger voters is going to be one of your, for lack of better words, target groups in terms of getting them involved and their participation. What are you hearing from younger voters when you're out campaigning right now? Or younger citizens?
That nobody cares about them.
Okay.
That they don't have anything for them. And I understand what they're saying, because, for example, when I grew up, Thursday night, open gym. Mm-hmm. We look forward to that, and then Saturday morning. We don't have that anymore. And not only just open gym, because we have to change with the time. I'm a photographer. That's my by trade. And when I started taking pictures, it was film. Mm-hmm. And I had to change with the time, or I would have got left behind.
Yeah.
So now digital, and it's digital now is great, because back then when you're taking a picture, everything that you take, if it was bad, good, or ugly, you had to pay for it.
Yeah.
Digital, just delete, But again, with our society, if we don't change with the times, the city will get left behind. Our young people, they don't really have it. Everybody doesn't play basketball. Mm-hmm. And for example, one of the things in our city is a growing thing is soccer.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. But again, everybody's not in the sport. We need to have, like, every kid now, even little kids have a phone.
Yeah.
So having things where they can have video game challenges and competitions, because that's where that generation, that's where the generation is right now. But having things of changing with the times, finding out where our young people are and meeting them where they are.
Do you think that, and then this is kind of a, not a rhetorical question, but it seems as though, and I'll ask this question, that's probably the big miss from a lot of folks running for office is that it's not knowing what folks want, and we're talking about young folks in this particular part of the conversation, and then saying, okay, well, we got the tools to work and make that happen. And so they missed that. It's a micro thing, but it's an opportunity to make that micro thing a bigger thing.
Yes.
How many times, or not how many times, but going back to the conversation around age of voters, are older voters feeling disenfranchised too, or are they? What's happening there in the city of North Chicago?
Mostly with our seniors are concerned about the taxes going up.
Okay.
Fortunately for us, our city taxes have not been raised in a while, but it's the county assessors which are raising the taxes, and just educating our citizens on that fact and letting them know that you can challenge the county assessors what they've put on your plate, but a lot of them don't know that information. So by giving them, having classes, then giving them assistance, because a lot of our seniors, they're not going to do it. But if you show them how to do it, because knowledge is power. There's always to be a commercial. Knowledge is a terrible thing to waste. But if you don't have the knowledge, you can't do anything with it. And then this really good book I read, it says where there's no vision, the people perish. So you have to give people the information so that they can move forward. And then once you give them the information, then it's up to them whether they're going to do something with it or not.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that was going through my mind, and I didn't want to interrupt you when you're talking about children or younger folks. I was going to say children, but younger folks not having something to do or providing things for them to do. What popped into my mind is the word civics and civic engagement. And I've seen a reduction in the focus on civics and a reduction in sort of social and civic engagement. What are you seeing in that space?
Exactly that. Again, for example, one of the things that I would have put in place is a Friday night get-together, a poetry, where they can come together. Back in the day, we had like what they call a coffee shop.
Yeah.
You know, and since everybody's drinking coffee now, that'd be a great thing, but maybe not have coffee. But a Friday evening, a Saturday, they can come together, do poetry. They can come together and have poetry competition, or come there just to socialize in a safe environment. And that's the key word, because a lot of these people in this generation
don't feel safe.
They don't feel safe.
Yeah. Youth engagement is a big part of your platform. And if you listened to the show or you heard earlier this morning, I talk about sort of this collective energy, cohesive thinking. Your North Chicago is connected to so many other communities in and around Northern Illinois. Obviously, Chicago being the main or the largest city. How are you, or what are you planning on doing in terms of engaging with other mayors, other county officials? Obviously, Mayor Johnson here in Chicago, Governor Pritzker. What's sort of your, full windshield view of what you want to be able to do in terms of engaging with them?
Okay. Since you said Governor Pritzker, I have taken several. Being a photographer, I've taken pictures of Governor Pritzker several times. Our local mayors, Waukegan, Lake Forest, different, Highland Park, the mayor from Highland Park. I've taken all of their pictures, so I know them personally.
Okay.
But again, of coming together and sharing the ideas, because no man is an island. But if you have a good idea, I have a good idea, let's sit down, let's come to the table, let's work together. And together, the acronyms for team, together each accomplishes much. And that's important to me because I don't know everything. And all of my ideas are not the only ideas, but if we all come together with our ideas and put them together, that's how we can all become great.
Yeah, I've said so many times on this show, I know a lot, but I don't know everything. So when someone calls in, Kenneth, and they have a comment or an observation about something, I take it as great because it's a contribution to the greater good of what we're trying to get done here. I appreciate your answer in that regard about, making sure that your ideas, which may not always be perfect, you share them and you are receptive to other ideas from other folks, because that's where you find out, okay, we're not as far apart as we thought we were. We're closer and we have a lot more in common.
Half empty, half full.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. Hey, so you may have heard this, but I talked a little bit about, with regard to the fires that are happening in California, which are just awful and horrendous, and the weather patterns that we have throughout the country, which we know that are problematic. There's no doubting that. Some people may want to, but in a real world, you cannot doubt that. You cannot look away from that. But infrastructure is another part of your platform, and it's something that I have been talking about for a long time because I drive a lot. And so for me, infrastructure immediately is, how come they haven't fixed these potholes? And I'm not blaming people. I'm just saying, how come we haven't fixed these potholes? Or how come we haven't fixed these bridges? Or how come we have issues with water quality and air quality right here in Chicago and Chicago metropolitan and suburbs and northern cities? Talk about your view of what infrastructure really means.
All right. You ever heard this? Okay, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
How do you eat an elephant? As big as an elephant, how would you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
Exactly, one bite at a time. So how I attack infrastructure is what I've been doing as an alderman. We have what's called a hot box.
Okay.
With this hot box, it heats up the tar, and you start filling up the potholes. And that's what I was doing as an alderman. I would drive through the city myself, call a public works department, hey, we got a pothole over here. We need this fixed over here, because everybody wants the whole street fixed. But you start with that elephant philosophy. You fill up the pothole here, 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 here. And then one of the things we just done, we just fixed a whole street. It's a long stretch, of street. Everybody's happy now, but it takes time to do the whole city. But you can start with the little thing, fixing the pothole, because when you hit a pothole, there goes the rim. Yep. There goes, and now the residents are mad because now their cars messed up.
Right.
Or the younger generation, their rims.
Yes.
They pay a lot of money for their rims, and now they're mad at the city because now the city said, well, that's your fault. It's not. But no, we have a responsibility. We have to take responsibility for fixing those simple things. Fix a pothole. We have the equipment, fix it.
Yeah. What about the money that's to be allocated for those fixes? A lot of times, this, the comeback is, well, we don't have it in the budget. To me, that's a vision issue. That's a short range, mid range, and long range, for lack of better words, lacking to not have the vision to say, okay, let's fix these. Let's allocate to fix these potholes. Then let's allocate to fix these. The one pothole. Now let's fix 3. Now let's fix 5. And walk with me on that.
There is no vision. Again, from that good book I read, where there is no vision, the people perish. You have to have vision. North Chicago, there used to be, when you drive into the city, the theme of the city was a city of vision. Mm-hmm. That's one thing I would when I become the mayor.
That's right. That's a vision.
Yes, sir.
That's
yes, sir. I would definitely put that back, a city of vision. But again, going back to the answer to the question, you have to have that vision. For example, a lot of the citizens complain about the sidewalks. We don't even have sidewalks throughout the whole city. Mm-hmm. Here, a sidewalk here, a sidewalk there. Let's make the sidewalks for everybody. Now, it takes time and money to do that. But how do you do that? We do a section at a time. Fix the roads a section at a time. Potholes are a simple fix. Yes, we can't do the whole street. We'll work on that the next year. We'll do another street the next year. That's how you solve the problem.
People want to see progress. And sometimes it's the pothole at a time that shows people visually, literally, there's progress because we got this one fixed. Now we're going to get this one fixed. Sometimes, though, what people want to hear is what the vision is and the plan, so that folks can link themselves to something. How are you going to get the vision that we've just discussed out there so that the people who should be following you, want to follow you, don't perish?
All right. All right. So I'm excited about that because Great Lakes is the naval base that we have right in our city of North Chicago. Parents come in every 2 weeks for graduation from all over the United States. But they come into North Chicago with all of their money, come in on a Wednesday because graduation's on Thursday now. But they come there, but then they leave North Chicago and go to surrounding cities to spend the money because we have nothing there. Part of what I would want to do is build up our city. Right there by the naval base, we have plenty of land. We just got money to clean that land up, build a nice hotel there, build a nice steak restaurant there. Nice store where the kids can just walk across the railroad track, go shopping, go back. When families come into town, they can spend that money in North Chicago and not take that money elsewhere. So when people see this, and not only with the hotel, we don't even have a hotel. Most people that have, we have the great Lakeshore Drive. I mean, not Lakeshore Drive, but we have a view of Lake Michigan. We want to build that lakefront up. That's what I was looking. Build up our lakefront, nice hotel, make it high enough where they can see the lake. Cut down a few trees. We're building up our beach, and then also North Chicago was awarded number 2 for the best place to start a business. Small, and so building that up, bringing more businesses into North Chicago, and teaching our young people about being an entrepreneur. I'm a photographer, as I said, but I started in high school.
Yep, I remember.
And 40 plus years later, I'm still taking pictures because of starting in high school. Back then we had wood shop, automotive, home ec, learning how to cook. And I can cook today, but mainly because of my mother. But
me too.
And
my father.
But again, getting these trades and teaching our young people how to be an entrepreneur. Another thing I just want to say, our schools they didn't really prepare us for real life. They didn't tell you about being an entrepreneur, saving money. They taught us a lot of things. And I'll say this real quick. So I was in algebra class. So one of the things that I got credit for in our class was class participation. So I raised my hand in algebra. I said, Mr. Fay, that was my teacher's name. I'll never forget. Mr. Fay, what am I going to use algebra for?
Yeah.
So I caught him off guard. He came back the next day. Well, if you're going to be an astronaut, if you're going to be an engineer, I said, Mr. Fay, what am I going to use algebra for? Because to me, it wasn't really getting me ready for the real world. So again, getting our young people the mind of investing, getting them in the mind of having your own business, working for yourself and not working for somebody else.
And that's a global, and I don't mean global in terms of the world, but global thing from an educational system in the United States that I've actually said that our systems don't do enough. And some people want to make the partisan argument, the biased argument of public schools versus charter schools versus private schools. At the end of the day, it's all educating our youth, so we all should participate together to make sure that our youth is better educated and better forward thinking and planning. So I agree with you there in terms of that's one of the things that's an opportunity. Building a hotel, taking land that's there that you can clean up, giving people more access to the beachfront and to the lake, almost said the ocean, to the lake, and being able to take a part of that. Do you feel that you can make some effort to create or provide North Chicago with a destination that's a place of where people want to come to? What are some of the things that you could do to kind of orchestrate that?
That's the key word. Make it know. What? Are you familiar with Gurnee?
Oh, yeah.
What is Gurnee known for? I'll just help
Six
you.
Flags.
Six Flags and the mall.
And the mall.
It's known as a destination place. So, yes, I want to make North Chicago a destination place. So when mom and dad get ready to come to junior, graduate, North Chicago, they have this there. Building up North Chicago. And, again, that goes back to marketing. If they don't know what's there, they can't enjoy what's there before they come. But building up North Chicago, making it a place of destination so people can, when they leave, they say, oh, you ought to go to North Chicago. We had this great ceremony, and they had this great hotel, and all these, making those things. But again, it goes back to marketing. You have to put the information out there. As a photographer, I have a saying, yes, I got my pictures taken by Kenneth Smith Photography. I could be in Walmart. Hey, yes, I got, people that know and got their pictures done,
Well, here's an idea. It just popped into my head in terms of the photography, because I remember, that was one of my classes that I took in high school. Loved it. One of my favorite classes, and did pretty well in it. And the reason I think I did well is I had a good teacher, but it's also an area that it was an area of discovery for me. Taking pictures was a thing to go and do that allowed me to see so much through the lens of a camera, but also when you take the camera down. And that's a whole nerdy thing about being a photographer. You know what I'm talking
yes,
about.
Sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So when you were talking about destination and things to do, come to North Chicago items, one of the things that popped in my mind is creating a go-to thing or a destination thing for those who are photographers or people who like photography. I don't know, maybe it's a thing that you could make as part of coming to the city of North Chicago as a great destination for those who are photographers and those who appreciate the outdoor aspect of that part of Illinois.
So here's one of the that's good. But here's one on that same page. An idea that I thought about doing was setting up a class, maybe whether it be free or for the kids. But everybody has a phone.
Yeah.
I mean, quick
That's
question.
what was in the back of my mind when I thought about it. Go ahead. Sorry.
So let me ask you a question. When you buy a phone, brand new, what's the most important thing in the box?
Oh, gosh. The most important thing in the box for me is probably the power cord.
Okay, you would say the power cord. There's a lot of different answers, but a lot of people don't get the right answer. You know what the most important thing in that box? The instructions.
Yes, it is. That's correct.
But you know what? How many people take time and read the instructions? They don't.
So they don't know what the phone's capacity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All they do is turn it on and start pushing buttons. And that's how a lot of people do it. They go through life just pushing buttons when they don't have an instruction, or going back to our city, they don't have the plan on where the city is going. And that's one thing I want to do is have a plan. I have a plan. I don't put everything out there yet, but I do have a plan of taking the city forward, taking the city to the next level with the infrastructure, working with our young people, working with local government and surrounding government. But again, going back to the phone, the plan I would do is have a class and teach them how the things that you can do with your phone. The phones now are so the quality is so good now. You can do a lot, but if you don't know how to really navigate when taking the good picture, a lot of people don't. A simple thing, cleaning your lens off.
Yeah, I know. This will make you laugh. I was with family, as we all are during the holidays, as we're starting to wrap up the show today, and the conversation kind of morphed into the phone being able to do some sort of, I forgot what it was now, but the point is, I was sitting there going, I didn't realize that my phone could do that. And I was one of maybe two people in the house that had an Android. Everybody else had an iPhone or and I was like, wow, I didn't know that they could do that. And I kind of kept my mouth shut because I didn't want to show my ignorance in that space. But it was a moment where I was like, read the instructions. And it would tell you that you can do that with your phone. And the same is true with what you just said about, in general, people don't. That's part of the vision, though, and I applaud you for seeing that as part of your development of youth, your development of folks who are a little bit older. Part of your infrastructure conversation is having the vision to say we're going to move forward and we're going to make sure that we have progress in our community, and that's what a lot of folks I think are excited about when they can tap into what a politician, elected official is talking about. What's the vision? Where's the forward thinking? So good on you for that. Are you excited about this upcoming election?
I'm very excited. I got some negativity feedback initially, but now people see what I'm doing and just sharing, I'm going against a 20-year incumbent.
Yeah.
So like, oh, you can't do that. That's never been done. Woo, 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 But there's a vision.
Yeah.
This country is built on a vision.
Yep. How do we go forward?
Yes. You know, and
North Chicago is not separate from that. It's you're creating a mindset for a vision, and I'm happy. How can folks find you? Where do they go to follow you, to find you, to contribute, to be involved, whatever? www.kennethsmith.vote. Again, www.kennethsmith.vote, or you can call me at 224-595-7525. There you go. Kenneth Smith, candidate for mayor of North Chicago. Good to be with you this morning, and thanks for stopping in to chat with us. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Hey, guys, we're wrapping up the show today. As always, as I say to everybody, and we appreciate you following us and calling in and texting and all that good stuff. Take a deep breath. Make your life count. We will see you tomorrow.